Okay, let's talk about what is happening in the Utah housing market here in June of 2026. Now that we are part of the way into July, these numbers should be pretty much finalized that I'm going to share with you today and give you an idea of what's happening in the market. Is it going up? Is it going down? I'm just going to share the numbers so you can decipher it yourself. I'm not going to say that the market is crashing. I'm not going to say that it's great. I think everybody should look at the data and decipher it for themselves and decide for themselves if it is a good market to get in or out of right now. But first, before I jump into how we finished June of 2026, I have the July Realtor magazine here, and there was an interesting article about the first quarter of 2026 and the home prices here in Utah. And it says here, and unfortunately it's not online, so I can't put a screenshot of it, but Utah in the first quarter of 2026, home prices declined a tiny bit, 0.07%. So essentially nothing if you think about it. But we were ranked 44th nationally for home pricing appreciation because obviously our prices depreciated a little bit in the first quarter of 2026. So looking at the sales information from UtahRealEstate.com for the entire state of Utah and what is reported to this MLS. Now, Washington County has a really large MLS system, so it's possible that some of their numbers are not in here. Park City has their own. So a lot of people do use UtahRealEstate.com, but it's not, we are not a state that has just one MLS. So take this information knowing that piece. But for June of 2026, we had 3,865 sales in the whole state of Utah. Now that is regardless of home type. To put that into perspective, looking back historically at June, that is the highest number of sales that we've had since June of 2022. We did have more sales in June of 22, but we did not have higher sales in June of 2023, 2024, or 2025. So number of sales has gone up from what we've been seeing in the previous Junes. Now, I'm also going to share with you the median sales price and the average, depending on which one you like to look at. So the median sold price in June of 2026 for the entire state of Utah, regardless of housing types, was $525,000. So the only month higher than that was June of 2022. The median sales price was $526,000, so $1,000 higher. But just like with the number of sales, the median home price was not this high in June of 2023, 2024, or 2025. And then going over to the average sold price, for June of 2026, it was $676,340. And that number is actually the highest. I went back to June of 2020, and that was the highest June average sales price that we've had looking back 6 years to 2020. Okay, let's take a look at the average days on market here for the entire state of Utah. It did creep up a little bit to 58 average days on market in June compared to May was 57. So not, 1 day increase, but looking back to June of 2020, that is the highest average days on market for any of the Junes from June 2020 through June 2026. But the interesting thing is when you look at the sold price compared to the list price for the median and the average, it was still 97% of the list price it sold for. So again, that it doesn't matter if I'm looking at the average sold price and the average list price or the median list price to the median sold price. It is 97%. So what that tells me is it's not a big swing for buyers. Like, they're not getting these crazy deals and huge amounts off, because sellers are only losing about 3% from what they listed for to what they actually sold their house for. Now, I will tell you a real example that just happened to me last week. And that was a home that had been listed just over $500,000 for about 20 days. They dropped the price to $499, and lo and behold, they had multiple offers and actually ended up accepting an offer for what they originally listed for. And so my buyer missed out. He was not a cash buyer. And that was the offer that they went with, was a cash offer for their original price. So it's very interesting to see that. And it kind of goes back into that philosophy of overpricing your home does not mean that you're going to be able to negotiate down. In this case, and many cases, you price it right, you get the interest right off the bat, and boom, they got multiple offers and a cash offer for what they originally listed their house for. So the point is, multiple offers are still happening right now in this market. And I wouldn't say $500,000 is a small amount. Yes, that is more of an entry level in this market when you look at our average and median sold price. But still, you know, it's not like some screaming deal where all these people are swarming in. So let that be a lesson. If you are looking at selling your house, pricing it right is always going to be more important than thinking, I'm going to start high and negotiate down. Let's jump into the 3 counties I work in the most along the Wasatch Front: Salt Lake, Utah, and Davis counties. And really, those are really the most populated in the state, I think. Maybe St. George is coming up there, but those 3 counties for June of 2026, the median sold price was $549,900. The median days on market was 33 days, and the list price to sold price was 98%. So sellers, again, are getting 98% of what they listed their home for, the median list price, to what they actually median sold price was. Now, looking back historically for June, dating back to 2020, that is the highest numbers we've had in those 3 counties, including higher than June of 2022. So, when you compare the 3 counties to the entire state, which I don't want to confuse things, but when I look at the entire state, those counties are included. But when I separate those 3 counties out on their own, that means the median sold price for those 3 counties is about $25,000 higher than when you look at all the data for the state. So for the state, it was $525,000. For just those 3 counties, it was $549,900. Okay, and then looking at the average information for those 3 counties, the average sold price was $646,833. The average days on market was 52 days, and the average list price to what it actually sold for was 97%. And then again, just like we saw with the median, that is the highest June numbers we've had, looking back all the way back to June of 2020. Highest average sales price we've had in a June, highest average days on market that we've had in June. So it is kind of interesting to see that these 3 counties are still trending up compared to when you look at the entire state. So I hope you found this information useful. If you're thinking about making a real estate move, I'd love to connect with you. Shoot me a text or give me a call. That is the best way to reach me. But as always, make it a great day.